Welcome everybody, and let's talk about transferring one image from a rough draft piece of paper onto a final piece of paper. I have a pencil, and actually what I have here is a 4B pencil. Something with a little bit softer graphite is going to work pretty well for you. I have a ballpoint pen, right? And in this instance, I did my rough draft on a piece of newsprint. The first thing I want to do though is come back to this rough draft and talk about creating what is essentially like an old school piece of carbon paper. Probably don't know, but in typewriters, they used to have to put something in and type out the thing with a piece of carbon paper in between the original and a new piece of paper in order to get a duplicate or a triplicate of something. And we're basically doing the same thing. I have a fairly small image here. It doesn't go over the whole piece of paper because I wanted this to be relatively quick. But the first thing that I want to do is take wherever I have a part of my pencil drawing on the front of my piece of paper, and I want to quickly go over that with pretty dark graphite on the back. This area right here is essentially where I need my dark pencil to be. So I don't actually need to cover the entire backside of my piece of paper. And just to kind of protect my desk area and keep it a little bit cleaner, I'll put a piece of scrap paper back there. And before I start speeding this up, what I want to describe is I'm not drawing on the back of my piece of paper. I am pressing hard, but I'm just using the side of my paper to get dark graphite wherever it is that I have that drawing on the front of my piece of paper here. I'm going to start working on this. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. This is what I got on the back of my piece of paper, and you could tell that I kept kind of lifting my piece of paper up to look through where my drawing was to see if I had really dark pencil on the back. And you can kind of, when I lift up my paper, kind of see through it because it's super light rough draft newsprint. All I'm going to do is trace from my rough draft onto my original or my final piece of paper. So I can get rid of my scrap paper. I'll set my final piece of nice white drawing paper over here, and then I'll position my image where I want it. All right, if I had some Scotch tape handy, then what I could do is just kind of tape this all together, and I would choose to do this on the back just in case it rips the paper a little bit. You can always take this and like put it on your clothes to make it not quite so sticky. Let's do two tiny little pieces of that. If you don't have Scotch tape, not a big deal, but it does help ever so slightly. You want to press hard enough to get the image to come through very, very lightly on your final piece of paper from the graphite that's on the back of your rough draft. But you don't want to press so hard that it puts an indentation in your paper. So what is the right balance of that? Like, you just have to figure that out. You could certainly test that out on your scrap piece of paper. So if I came through here, you can probably just barely see this line right here. And actually I wasn't pressing very hard. The nice thing about the pen going over my original pencil lines is that it will allow me to see where I've already traced, so I don't go over things multiple times. So I think I'm going to stick with the pen, and I'm going to neatly trace around where I have lines for edges and different objects, and come back here in just a moment. Get that last line in there. And what I can also do, since I have this taped together, is I can lift up, my rough draft because it's attached with that Scotch tape, and I can make sure that all of my marks are there. Again, if we use a soft graphite pencil for the back here and we press really light when we're tracing, we get a really light image here, and if we need to, we can erase and adjust. A couple lines are missing in a few places, but again, that's an area where I know from experience that I can go back and pretty easily just sketch that out lightly in pencil. And truth be told, gentle taking my tape off, I don't need that anymore. So now I go from rough draft, carboning soft graphite on the back of it, tracing on top. I did this with a ballpoint pen, and then I have it all placed on my final piece of paper. Again, if I need to come through and make some of these lines lighter, I can. I just want to be left with kind of like a ghost image here to guide me as I start to work. So go through that process, use it whenever you need it, and as always, have fun.